Why didn't you say that at the time? Why didn't you say anything at the time? Were you protecting the police department then? Now there's a leaked file. It compromises your company. Where is the report from your finding when you went in? So what did I pay $5,000 for? A better question is that normal operating procedure for you when you run into a case that's falsified by the county? Forget Mustafa. Are you telling me, Stephen Keen, that if someone in the county retains your company and hires you as an independent expert, and if you go in and you find a case that is falsified, are you going to do the same thing that you've done in Mustafa's case, where you protect that police department that falsified the case? I mean, that's really terrifying for the county. We have a company in our county that's operating under that they're independent expert, but what they do is they go in and protect the county and the police department in a case where a county falsified the case. You know how terrifying that is for this county to wake up into that reality?
Morning, Chief.
Morning. Just grabbing a little H2O before the next briefing. You know, a lot of good conversations start right here at this cooler. Keeps the department running and hydrated. Now,
Chief, we have a problem.
what's going on?
The Mustafa brothers. One of them got into evidence storage, took the Redfield file.
You're sure?
Caught him on the cameras 10 minutes ago. Damn it. Detective Forrester's been trying to track him since.
He knew exactly what he wanted. Folder was gone when I came back from the
All
lab.
right, lock down the exits.
We've lost another body cam node. Pull up the feed.
Found him. It's Mustafa, brother. He has the cams.
Lock down the servers. Now!
He's already inside.
Turn. This is for you, Agent Doyle. Full clip. Don't let them bury it.
Garcia, it's Reed. I need a location on Mustafa, brother, now.
Brought him on a ride-share trace, heading south on East Street, plate ending 068.
Sending coordinates now.
Copy that. Keep the feet up.
I'm moving. Garcia, it's Reed. I need a location on Mustafa, brother, now.
The broadcast talk to me.
Rideshare just dropped him downtown. He's heading for a studio called FM Wave.
Copy that. Put eyes on the block and lock it down. Whatever you do, don't let him air that file on his podcast. Units are en route.
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Judge Carol Weimer, you are under the microscope. And previous defense attorney Brad Hayward, we have to bring you in and put you under the microscope. What you've done in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, it looks like we can't move on unless we put you under this microscope. What have you done in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? Brad Hayward is Mustafa's previous attorney. Now, today's podcast, what we're going to talk about is the transcript of September 16, 2025. This past September. What Brad Hayward told the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer, what Prosecutor Sarah Sammy and Prosecutor Stephanie Buck told the presiding judge in response to what Brad Hayward, Mustafa's defense attorney, said on the record. Now, what you're going to find going through this transcript and what we're going to be able to answer is a couple of questions. Where is Mustafa's audio on the dash camera? The county, for over 3 years, told us that this dash camera, the dash camera that's in Mustafa's vehicle, does not have audio. Well, hold on now. The file that I stole from the county, the body cams and the documents, tell us that digital forensic, Cassie Zymas, admit that this dash camera does have audio. So the county has been lying to us. Knowing that this dash camera does have audio, Mustafa's defense no longer trusts the police department, no longer trusts the prosecution office, because the prosecution officer in the police department has been lying to the defense for over 3 years. And now evidence show that the police department digital forensic does in fact have the audio. So on September 16, 2025, Brad Haywood, Mustafa's previous defense attorney, put in a motion and asked the presiding judge for an independent expert to go in and inspect the dash camera that the police department is in possession of. And the independent expert is going to be able to pull the metadata and find out he's going to pull the audio off this dash camera. Now, the county granted Mustafa's defense attorney the money, the funds, to hire this independent expert and go in. The problem that we have with Brad Haywood is that Brad Haywood told Mustafa that investor already went in and that they didn't find audio. Wait a minute. Brad Haywood, when you tell Mustafa, and there's an email, Brad Haywood sent us an email and went in and gave this email to Mustafa. Mustafa put that email on the record. We're going to go over this email. Now, the problem with what Brad Haywood is telling Mustafa, when you tell Mustafa that an independent expert went in, downloaded and inspected the dash camera, the question here is, where is the body cams when that independent expert went in and inspected Mustafa's dash camera? Why am I asking for the body cams? On September 16, 2025, the presiding judge, there is a conversation between the presiding judge, the defense attorney, and the prosecutor, and they all agreed to stipulations. When the independent expert goes in, the police department has to be there, the prosecutor has to be there, and the defense attorney has to be there. Because remember, the defense attorney no longer trusts the prosecution and no longer trusts the police department. And they're talking about chain of custody. That this dash camera, they don't want this dash camera to leave the police department. So they all have to be there when the independent expert from the defense is extracting the audio, the files from this dash camera. Now, where is the body cams when investor went in? Brad Haywood, when he tells Mustafa that investor already went in and investor didn't find audio, Brad Haywood has to show Mustafa, by law, Mustafa is entitled to the body cams when investor, the independent expert, went in. Mustafa wants to see what happened when the independent expert went in. Mustafa needs the report from investor, from the independent expert. Did you pull the metadata off the dash camera, off the SD card when you downloaded the file? Did you compare it with the metadata that the prosecution has, the files that the prosecution have? Did the police department tamper with these files? You can find out because you're downloading the metadata. Because if you remember, in the motion to dismiss, Officer Chad Mason, the investigator that went in and took possession of Mustafa's dash camera, in a motion to dismiss, he tells the presiding judge that the chain of custody has been broken. He broke the chain of custody. That he took the dash camera back to his vehicle without a warrant. That he had the files for 2 days without a warrant. And 2 days later, he got a warrant for this dash camera. But he had those files for 2 days. The chain of custody has been broken. Who uploaded the dash camera to the police department server? That officer, Officer Chad Mason. The same officer that says, I broke the chain of custody. Well, the problem here is, one, he's not allowed by law. He's not the officer that's supposed to upload the files to the server, the dash camera file to the server. And two, he took possession of that dash camera for 2 days without a warrant. Digital forensic, Cassie Zymus, is the one that's supposed to upload the files to the server. The problem here is when you talk about the break and chain of custody, that the chain of custody has been broken by Officer Chad Mason. The problem here is that we're looking at a dash camera today that has no audio and it's cut before impact. That's why today we're hiring an independent expert to go in and look at the metadata and download the audio, because digital forensic is telling us that it does have audio. So the problem that Brad Haywood is running into is that he already told Mustafa that Investa went in court. He said Investa did not go in. And then instead, he went with the prosecutor's independent expert, Doug Lacey. Now they're telling Mustafa that Doug Lacey went in. Wait a minute. Mustafa on the record, and he made it very clear that he does not trust Doug Lacey because Doug Lacey is the prosecutor's independent expert. Why is Brad Haywood all of a sudden telling the court that he's going to be on a joint motion with the prosecution and he's retaining the prosecution's independent expert? That's a huge problem. Because remember, the reason that the defense is getting an independent expert is because there is a breakdown in trust between the police department. We no longer trust the police department or the prosecution office. They've been hiding the audio for 3 years. So we're going to go over the transcript from September 16, 2025. And keep in mind, when we're going over it, what we want to answer and what we want to find out is that when the defense attorney tell Mustafa, the independent expert already went in, but they didn't find audio, Mustafa. Keep in mind what digital forensic have already admitted to, that there is audio. And two, keep in mind the stipulation that was agreed on, and we're going to read the stipulation, which is that all parties have to be present when the audio is extracted. The defense attorney has to be there, the prosecutor has to be there, and the police department have to be there. And because all three parties have to be there, where are the body cams when they extracted the audio? So when they tell Mustafa, there is no audio on this dash camera, well, Mustafa is entitled to ask his defense, where are the body cams when the independent expert went in? Whether it's Doug Lacey, you have to show Mustafa the body cam for Doug Lacey with Investa. You have to show Mustafa the body cam with Investa when Investa went in. You have to show Mustafa the report. Mustafa has to go over the report, the finding from Investa. And now you're telling him Doug Lacey went in and didn't find audio. You have to show Mustafa the body cams when those independent experts went in. You have to show Mustafa the report. And you have to show Mustafa the financial report. How much did you pay these experts? Because the county paid for it. Mustafa has a defense attorney from the county, and the county gave Mustafa's defense money for independent experts. So when you're talking about Investa and Doug Lacey went in, those two independent experts, you have to show Mustafa evidence that it was done. All right. So what we're going to do today on this podcast is go over the transcript of September 16, 2025. And what we're going to do, we're going to break down the transcript. It's 29 pages. We're not going to go over all the pages in one podcast. What we're going to do, we're going to break it down into multiple podcasts. So today's podcast, we're going to go over page 1 to 10. On the next podcast, we're going to go from page 10 to 22. And then the third podcast, we'll go over page 22 to 29.
Morning, Chief.
Morning. Just grabbing a little H2O before the next briefing. You know, a lot of good conversations start right here at this cooler. Keeps the department running and hydrated. Now,
Chief, we have a problem.
what's going on?
The Mustafa brothers. One of them got into evidence storage, took the Redfield file.
You're sure?
Caught him on the cameras 10 minutes ago. Damn it. Detective Forrester's been trying to track him since.
He knew exactly what he wanted. Folder was gone when I came back from the
All
lab.
right, lock down the exits.
We've lost another body cam node. Pull up the feed.
Found him. It's Mustafa, brother. He has the cams.
Lock down the servers. Now.
He's already inside.
Turn. This is for you, Agent Doyle. Full clip. Don't let them bury it.
Garcia, it's Reed. I need a location on Mustafa, brother, now.
They brought him on a ride-share trace, heading south on East Street, plate ending 068.
Sending coordinates now.
Copy that. Keep the feet up.
I'm moving. Garcia, it's Reed. I need a location on Mustafa, brother, now.
The broadcast talk to me.
Rideshare just dropped him downtown. He's heading for a studio called FM Wave.
Copy that. Put eyes on the block and lock it down. Whatever you do, don't let him air that file on his podcast. Units are en route.
If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Judge Carol Weimer, defense attorney, previous defense attorney Brad Haywood. You are under the microscope. I want to thank everybody that's joining us on other platforms on TikTok. If you're joining our TikTok channel, make sure to go over to our YouTube channel. We're live on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. And I'm going to ask everybody that's here with us on TikTok to write in the chat and remind everybody that we're on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. Don't forget to share our YouTube channel on Facebook. And don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to support us directly. Our channel is monetized, so you can support our channel directly on YouTube, so that way we can continue doing what we're doing. You can also support us through Cash App. Our Cash App is Boring Podcast, so that we can continue doing what we're doing. And what we're doing is very simple. We're exposing what this county is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. And the question here, if they can do that in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, they can do that to anybody. Question here, is this standard operating procedure? I mean, when you look at the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, the details that are coming out of this case are disturbing. And the only reason we're finding out is because there's a major leak in this case. The body cams that are sealed by the county, the documents that are sealed by the county have now been leaked. And what we're finding is that the police department crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle, cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera. The dash camera that's in Mustafa's vehicle has been cut and muted by the county. They've been telling us there's no audio, but in the file that's been leaked, it says that the audio is there, and they're hiding it. The children in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case have been weaponized. A 9, a 10, a 14, weaponized against Mustafa. The home videos that will show you it's a beautiful relationship before the police weaponized the children. The prosecution is pretending it does not exist. But that has been leaked. Mustafa's statement had been falsified by the county. I mean, this is disturbing. The warrant itself, the affidavit, what the main investigator, Robert Drum, told the magistrate has been falsified. Every single thing that the investigator told the magistrate, you can find out that it's been falsified. Now, the question here is, if the warrant is falsified, this is the same investigator that is on the grand jury. What did this investigator tell the grand jury? That Mustafa was indicted. If that's what he's telling the magistrate, is he telling the same thing to the grand jury? It's the same investigator based on the fact that the warrant is falsified, Mustafa's defense can file to unseal the grand jury's transcript. So we can find out why, what did this investigator tell the grand jury that Mustafa today is indicted on, that he intentionally did this on purpose. Multiple body cams show that this investigator is lying about the details that are coming the details that are coming out of this case. One example, on one body cam, investigator Robert Drum flat out says that Mustafa never hit the brake. Wait a minute. We have the computer, the EDR data, that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. Did Robert Drum tell the grand jury that Mustafa never hit the brake? Mustafa's defense has a lot of work to do to file a motion and to unseal the grand jury. That's a conversation for a different podcast. On today's podcast, what we want to focus on is the transcript on September 16, 2025. And what we're going to go through, it's 29 pages. What we're going to do on this podcast is go through page 1 to 10. On the next podcast, we're going to go through page 10 to 22. On the third podcast, we're going to go through page 22 to 29. On today's podcast, and when you're listening to today's podcast and the coming two podcasts, you want to focus on what Mustafa's defense is telling Mustafa about the independent expert. The independent expert, there's a judge order. The judge order stipulate that Mustafa's independent expert goes in and inspect the dash camera and download the metadata and the audio for the dash camera. Inspect Mustafa's vehicle. Now, in this transcript, you're going to find that there is a stipulation agreed between the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney that all parties have to be there. So when they're telling Mustafa, this is what happened, Mustafa is entitled to look at the body cams to make sure that that's actually what happened. And Mustafa is entitled to it because based on the history of this case, they falsified the whole entire thing. 3 years ago, they were supposed to inspect the vehicle. What do we find on a body cam? The prosecutor, Sarah Sammy, blocked a judge order to inspect the independent expert from inspecting the vehicle. And the only way we can find that out, because according to the prosecutor, I mean, we're almost 4 years into it, and the prosecutor is still lying about allowing the independent expert to inspect the vehicle. But we have the body cam, and we're watching her block the inspection. So based on the history of this case, Mustafa is entitled to watch the body cam. Mustafa is entitled to look at the report that's coming out of these independent experts. Mustafa is entitled to look at the financial record. How much did you pay this independent expert? Did you pay this independent expert? Did that independent expert really go in? Or are they covering up for the county? Are they trying to bury what's coming out of this case? Are they just trying to tell Mustafa, yeah, Mustafa, our independent expert went in, but didn't find anything, Mustafa? Well, let's look at the body cams. You know, I tell Mustafa, whatever they tell you, I have evidence to tell you whether they're lying to you or not. Whatever they pull out of their hat, going forward on this case, now that I have the sealed file, now that I have the body cams in the document, you can no longer lie to Mustafa. You can no longer lie to this community. Whatever the prosecution comes out of the prosecution office and the police department, we can find out if they're lying to us. When you tell us that the independent expert went in and he found no audio, I'm going to tell you the independent, Kathy's Diamonds with digital forensics said there is audio. What did she say exactly in a motion to dismiss? And her document, she said that she heard the audio. She said the last several videos didn't have audio. but the rest of the videos did have audio. So my question to the county and Mustafa's defense, which video did and did not have audio? Because according to Cassie Zymas, the police department digital forensic, she says she heard the audio, and there is audio, and the videos do have audio, except for the last couple of videos. Last several videos. So which video did and did not have audio? So far, you haven't shown Mustafa anything. When you tell Mustafa that the independent expert went in and didn't find audio, you have to sit down with Mustafa and show him the body cams. When you tell Mustafa that the independent expert went in and didn't find audio, you better be able to show Mustafa the report coming out of these independent experts. Did they pull the metadata and compare it with the files that the county has? Did the county manipulate these files? And today we have no audio. All right, so let's jump into the transcript. Let's see what they're saying in court now that we know what to look for. This is transcript from September 16, 2025. All right. All right, so I'm going to go over transcript of the proceeding heard before. Okay, the Honorable Carol A. Weimer, Jr., presiding judge, Circuit Court number 5, Tuesday, September 16, 2025, 9 a.m. So this is between defense attorney Brad Haywood, prosecutor Sarah Sammy, and prosecutor Stephanie Buck. And the presiding judge is Judge Carol Weimer. The Honorable Carol A. Weimer, Jr., presiding judge, Circuit Court number 5, Tuesday, September 16, 2025, 9 a.m. The courtroom order defense is to have access to and able to perform extraction of digital evidence with regard to camera and vehicle. Can have physical inspection of vehicle. Must be in the presence of and while still in the custody of the Commonwealth's extraction and inspection facilitated and occur before end of September. Before the end of September. One of the biggest problems that we have in this case, this is September of last year. The judge is putting in an order that I need an independent expert to inspect the dash camera and an independent expert to reconstruct the vehicle before the end of September. Well, we're in March. So far, Mustafa sits in solitary. His trial is pushed until December of next year. Mustafa his defense attorney has not sat down with him and showed him the report from the independent expert that went in to extract his dash camera and the vehicle reconstruction. That has not been done. Nothing has been done. Mustafa sits in solitary in complete darkness. Is that a violation of Mustafa's due process that you're leaving Mustafa in the dark? Mustafa, by law, is entitled to his evidence. And so far, it's going on 4 years. Solitary confinement without Mustafa going over anything. And the judge here is ordering that is done by the end of September. Judge Carol Weimer, presiding Judge Carol Weimer, did you not order this vehicle to be inspected 3 years ago? Did Brad Haywood not tell you that the prosecutor blocked and broke your judge order blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle 3 years ago? Why is there no consequences for this prosecutor? Why is there no consequences for a prosecutor, Sarah Sammy? And the question that we're asking, when a prosecutor blocks the reconstruction and the evidence moving forward, and there is no consequences, is the presiding judge still impartial in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? I mean, one of the things that's disturbing that's coming out of this case is there is no consequences. You want to tell me that Judge Weimer is impartial, but he's being told that the prosecutor blocked the vehicle from getting inspected? I mean, why is Mustafa not going to trial? The reason that Mustafa is not going to trial is because you can't go to trial because the evidence is not moving forward. Who's blocking the evidence? We're going to watch a body cam where the prosecutor is blocking the inspection of the vehicle. Why is there no consequences for this prosecutor? Is Judge Weimer protecting this prosecutor? Is Judge Weimer protecting a police department that crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle? Is this judge even impartial on the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? I'm not going to tell you he is. You tell me. Let's dive into this transcript. Facilitated, okay, so this is page 3. Facilitated and occur before end of September. Protective order, similar to previous protective orders. All right, so you have the bailiff of the Commonwealth, Stephanie Buck, Deputy Commonwealth Attorney, Sarah Sammy. So they're telling you which prosecutor is on Mustafa's case. That is Stephanie Buck and Sarah Sammy are the prosecutor on the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. On behalf of defendant Bradley Haywood. Okay, Brad Haywood. All right, and then you have in the court also present victim witness staff. Okay. Defense motion. All right, motion. All right, so this is the defense motion. Motion for inspection and independent analysis of evidence in the government possession. Court order that the defense is to have access to and are able to perform an extraction of the digital evidence with regard to the camera as well as the vehicle. They can have physical independent inspection of the vehicle. It has to be in the presence. It has to be in the presence and while it still in the custody of the Commonwealth. And that there needs to be a protective order similar to the agreed protective order that have been put in place. I find it really interesting that they're talking about the chain of custody and how they're all agreeing that the chain of custody, and once we go into the details of the transcript, once we start reading what they're saying, what the prosecutor is saying, what Judge Weimer is saying, the main investigator Chad Mason, in a motion to dismiss, he's admitting to breaking the chain of custody on the dash camera. And here, you're going to find a conversation between the defense attorney and the prosecutor, how he wants his independent expert to go in. And the prosecutor says, no, we don't want to have anybody go in because we have to protect the integrity and not have the chain of custody broken. In a motion to dismiss, and we have the transcript, Investigator Chad Mason admitted to breaking the chain of custody. He told Judge Weimer that when he took possession of the dash camera, he took possession of the dash camera for 2 days without a warrant. 2 days later is when he got a warrant for this dash camera. So you're talking about an investigator that has the files, downloaded the files, and is in possession of those files for 2 days without a warrant. And he uploaded the files to the server when he's not allowed, when he's not the officer that's allowed to upload the files to the server. The problem here, when you're talking about an officer that is admitting to breaking the chain of custody, you're talking about an officer, you're talking about a dash camera that today has no audio and it's cut before impact. That today here, the prosecutor is telling the judge, Your Honor, I'm worried about the chain of custody being broken on this dash camera. Your officer already broke the chain of custody. Extraction and inspection by the defense is to be facilitated and occur before the end of September. Before the end of September. Nothing has been done so far. Mustafa still sits in solitary and nothing has been done. This is a judge order that by the end of September of last year, The independent expert is supposed to inspect the dash camera and the vehicle. Nothing has been done. The question here is, what is the county so terrified from that they're blocking the inspection of the vehicle and inspection of the dash camera? Why is it so difficult to get that done? Well, what you're going to find is they crushed and staged the vehicle. That when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle, they found brake failure. So Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. And there's brake failure. So what did they do? They blocked the inspection. They crush and stage the vehicle. Because the minute you have an independent expert that go in, they're going to find out that this vehicle has brake failure. We have a body cam where the police inspected Mustafa's vehicle and found brake failure. Why are they terrified from the dash camera being inspected? Because they cut and muted the dash camera. The minute that you go in, you're going to find out. You're going to get the audio. I mean, the police department is already admitting that there's audio. And here you have a prosecutor that tells you there's no audio. So two government officials are telling you two different things. How does that make any sense? Why is it so difficult to get Mustafa's evidence inspected? Why is the prosecution blocking the evidence from moving forward? Because the county falsified the whole entire case. Extraction and inspection by the defense is to be facilitated and occur before the end of September of last year. All right, so two pieces of evidence have been entered into Mustafa's case by the defense. All right, so defense exhibit A, an affidavit from Investa. And you and I remember the name Investa because this is the independent expert for the defense. Explain to me how and why the defense all of a sudden is going with the the independent expert of the prosecutor. How does that make any sense? Doug Lacey. Brad Haywood's independent expert is Investa. Keep that in the back of your head. So the affidavit, we're going to go over the affidavit. We're going to read the affidavit. And another piece of evidence is videos of when the traffic safety consultant with a prior defense attorney and investigators for the police department went to look at the vehicle involved in the crash. These are the videos that I stole from the county. These are the videos that you're watching on the internet. These are the videos that have now leaked all over the internet that show the prosecutor blocked Mustafa's vehicle from getting inspected by the independent experts. These are the videos that show that when the prosecutor stands today and say that we allowed the independent expert to inspect the vehicle, the body cam show otherwise. It shows that she blocked the independent expert, breaking the judge order to get Mustafa's vehicle inspected by the independent expert. I mean, really let that sink in. That for 3 years, they're telling you, we inspected Mustafa's vehicle. And now there's a leak of body cam that they're hiding from you that show they blocked the inspection. And they want to take Mustafa to trial without his vehicle being inspected, without his dash camera being inspected. Because the county crushed and staged that vehicle. And they want to go in with a crushed and staged vehicle. They want to go in with a dash camera that they cut and muted. And these are the videos. Now that there is a leak, Mustafa's defense attorney is putting it on the record. And we're going to watch these body cams on this podcast. All right, so page 5. The bailiff, all rise. The circuit court for the 31st Judicial Circuit is now in session. The Honorable Carol A. Weimer Jr. presiding. Please be seated and come to order. Court reporter sworn in the clerk at 9:06 a.m. Prosecutor Sarah Sami says good morning. The court says good morning. If everyone would introduce themselves. Prosecutor Sarah Sami on behalf of the Commonwealth. Miss Buck, Stephanie Buck, on behalf of the Commonwealth. So you got two prosecutors on Mustafa's case, Sarah Sammy and Stephanie Buck. Mr. Haywood, good morning, Your Honor. Brad Haywood for Mr. Al-Jazairi. That's Mustafa's defense attorney. Let's take a look at Brad Haywood, so that way we know who we're talking about. Let's type Brad Haywood. All right, so this is Brad Haywood, Bradley Haywood. Now, what in the coming days, what you're gonna have is we've contracted with an agency that's turning the whole case into a movie. We supply them with the transcript. We supply them with the body cams that have been leaked. We supply them with the characters that are involved in this case, and they're turning the whole case into a movie. So that way, if you're having a hard time following the details that are coming out of this case, you can just watch the movie based on the transcript, based on the body cams. This is what the prosecutor is doing. And you're going to have a number of videos where Brad Haywood and what Brad Haywood has done in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. If you're a resident of Prince William County or Virginia and you need a defense attorney, be careful not to hire Brad Haywood. Because Brad Haywood, we have evidence where Brad Haywood goes behind closed doors, make a deal with a prosecutor, with a police department that have falsified the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Now, that's a giant claim. That is a giant claim. Brad Haywood, I bet you're not going to file a defamation lawsuit. I bet you're not going to file a defamation lawsuit. You know why you're not going to file a defamation lawsuit? Because discovery goes both ways. I'll be entitled to your communications, your email communication, and my favorite, your cell phone communications. Did you not say that you've been threatened off the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? I have evidence that you worked against your client, that you lied to your client, Mustafa Al-Jazairi. You told him that investor went in. Investor, the independent expert. Wait a minute. You worked against your client when you hired an independent expert for the prosecutor. Brad Haywood will tell you, well, the defense and the prosecutor can hire an independent expert because an independent expert can be hired by a prosecutor, and that same independent expert can be hired by the defense. And that independent expert can be hired back and forth. It could be sometime the defense would hire them. The same one would be hired by the... Yeah, that's true. But not in a case where the police department falsified a case. Not in a case where you're telling the presiding judge, you no longer trust the prosecutor, you no longer trust the police department in your Brady motion. You're not going to turn around and hire the independent expert from the prosecutor. They reached out to him first. They hired him first. That's the independent expert of the prosecution. Doug Lacey is the prosecution independent expert. What are you doing telling Mustafa that investor went in and then turn around and hire the independent expert for the prosecutor, Doug Lacey? And now they're telling Mustafa Doug Lacey went in. Well, there's an email that you sent us and you gave to Mustafa. And that email is on the record. And in that email, you said investor went in. Where's the body cam? Because there are stipulations when an independent expert go in. That you're supposed to be there, the defense, the prosecutors have to be there, the police department has to be there. Where are the body cams? God help you if there's no body cams. You're going to be held accountable by law. Where is the body cams and the report from Doug Lacey? So the reason that you're not going to bring a defamation lawsuit, and I'm going to be able to talk about you and show this evidence because you're terrified. Because you worked against your client. You lied in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi to protect the police department that falsified this case. And if I'm wrong, sue me for a defamation lawsuit. Take this to court. But you won't. You're terrified because discovery does go both ways. So you're going to have a bunch of videos that are going to show you what Brad Haywood is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. All right, so let's continue going over the transcript. All right. The court, Judge Weimer, were ready for Mr. Al-Jazairi. The defendant, Mustafa Al-Jazairi, entered courtroom at 9:07 a.m. wearing jail attire. So Mustafa comes in. They bring in Mustafa. And one thing I want to tell the another conversation for another podcast. Another conversation for another podcast. All right. So the court were ready for Mr. Al-Jazairi. The defendant, Mustafa Al-Jazairi, entered courtroom at 9:07 a.m. wearing jail attire. The courtroom, all right, Judge Weimer, the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Mustafa Al-Jazairi. So Judge Weimer, this is Judge Weimer. Judge Weimer said Mustafa Al-Jazairi is present. His counsel, Mr. Haywood, Miss Buck, and Miss Sammy are here on behalf of the Commonwealth. This matter comes before the court on motion filed by the defense. Let me make sure with you that I have read everything that has been filed. What I have is a notice and motion. Well, first of all, I am going to enter the order for transcript. I apologize. I thought that has been entered and it had not. But I'm going to enter that today. All right. With regard to the motion that's before court today, it's defendant motion for inspection and independent analysis of evidence in the government possession. I have a precipice that was filed actually by the Commonwealth. I have the notice and motion for inspection and independent analysis of evidence filed by the defense. So the defense attorney filed to get Mustafa's vehicle inspected because it's been blocked by the prosecutor. And he wants Mustafa's dash camera to be inspected by an independent expert because evidence showed that it does have audio and the police department cut and muted this dash camera. I have a precipice that was filed actually by the Commonwealth. I have the notice and motion for inspection and independent analysis of evidence filed by the defense. I have the Commonwealth's response to the defendant motion for inspection and independent analysis of evidence in the government possession, the defendant's reply, and the memorandum of law. And that's it. Is there anything else? One thing that you should notice, and we're going to go over this, is the prosecutor's motion and replying to what Brad Haywood filed. And it's disturbing because in that motion, the prosecutor tells the presiding judge flat out that she allowed the independent expert to inspect the vehicle. Flat out. I mean, there's a body cam that show that she blocked the inspection. And here she is writing a motion, flat out lying to the presiding judge. And this defense attorney is giving the presiding judge the body cams that show that she's lying to him. Why is there no consequences for this prosecutor? And the question here is the fact that there is no consequences for the prosecutor that lie and block evidence from moving forward. And today we have Mustafa sits in solitary confinement because of the prosecutor blocking the evidence from moving forward, blocking the evidence from getting inspected, breaking a judge order. Why is there no consequences? And if there's no consequences, can we say that this judge is no longer impartial in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? You tell me. What is this judge doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? Is he protecting the prosecutor? Is he protecting the police department that falsified this case? Absolutely. All right, so page 7. We're on page 7. September 16, 2025. The transcript. And we're on page 7. If anybody's tuning in on our other platform, TikTok, I want to remind everybody to find us on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. And I'm going to ask everybody that's sitting here, Casey, I love you, ma'am. Thank you for being here. Please come up, send me a request. if you can bring Casey up. Casey, if you can do me a favor, if you can keep putting in the chat that find us on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. If you can do that every couple of minutes, just remind people that are coming in. You're going to have an easier time finding us on YouTube and following what we're talking about on YouTube, because we're going to be going over a number of documents. We're going to be going over a number of body cams. So I'm going to ask you to follow us on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here. Casey, Dr. Adam, thank you for being here. I want to thank the mother of Mustafa Al-Jazairi. She's on this platform. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share the podcast. And let's continue reading the transcript. We're on page 7 on the transcript from September 16, 2025. All right. So Prosecutor Sarah Sammy says, no, sir. Mr. Haywood says, no, Your Honor. The court says, all right. I've read all of those and done some research. So let me hear from you, Mr. Haywood. All right. Mr. Haywood says, sure. Judge Weimer says, I don't know that there is a whole more to motion for inspection and independent analysis, evidence in the government possession, argument by counsel for the defendant. Mr. Haywood, all right, Mustafa's defense tells the court, there isn't much more, just to make sure I've connected all the dots. I know the Commonwealth was submitting a video. I want to submit a complete set of videos related to the examination of the vehicle. And also, so the prosecutor, what the prosecutor has done is she would chop up a body cam and show a judge, Your Honor, we did let the independent expert go in and inspect Mustafa's vehicle. Look, Your Honor, look at this portion of the body cam. So the defense, Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, what he's doing is that he showed more of that body cam, where throughout the body cam, in the beginning, halfway through, and when we're going to go over these body cams that have been submitted to the presiding judge, she flat out blocked the inspection. And she didn't only block Mustafa, the independent expert, from inspecting Mustafa's vehicle. She blocked the independent expert from inspecting the other vehicle that's involved in this accident, the SUV. So we're going to go over those body cams. The court, the what of the vehicle, all right. So Judge Weimer says, the what of the vehicle, all right. Defense attorney says, what's that? Judge Weimer says, what of the vehicle? I'm sorry. Defense attorney Brad Haywood says, this was when the traffic safety consultant went with a prior defense attorney and the investigators for the police department to look at the vehicle involved in the crash. Judge Weimer says, okay. Mustafa's defense attorney Brad Haywood says, so, and the court doesn't need to watch all of it. Judge Weimer says, any objection? He said, he looks at the prosecutor and tells her, any objection? Sarah Sammy says, no, sir. Judge Weimer says, all right, I'm going to admit it as defendants. It says Exhibit B. Do you want to be B? It's B. Haywood tell him, Your Honor, it's Exhibit B. Court says Exhibit B. Haywood and Exhibit A is included with the motion. So there's, if you remember, there are two exhibits that are entered, the affidavit for the independent expert and the body cam that show the prosecutor have blocked the independent expert from inspecting the vehicle. These are the two pieces of evidence that the defense have entered so far. The court. Oh, yes. Defense Exhibit A, affidavit of Investa. The defense Exhibit B, video of one traffic consultant and a prior defense attorney and investigator for the police department looked at the vehicle involved in the crash were admitted into evidence without objection at 9:10 a.m. All right, defense attorney Brad Haywood, the affidavit of Investa. So those videos just basically show the police department, first of all, So basically, they show the police department. Let's see, I think this is better. There we go. So those videos just basically show the police department. First of all, it shows Mr. Keene. Mr. Keene is the independent expert that was blocked from inspecting the vehicle. Is the defense independent expert. At the time, we paid $5,000 for this independent expert. This is 3 years ago. And we're going to watch those body cams and how they blocked Mr. Keene from inspecting the vehicle. So Brad Haywood tells the court, Mustafa's defense tells the court. So those videos just basically show the police department. First of all, it shows Mr. Keene not being allowed to touch anything. He had actual comments that he's not allowed to touch anything. And it also shows the Commonwealth or the police really manhandling all of the evidence. They're just picking it up, putting it down, throwing it this way and that way. And there are 2 videos of them actually turning the wheel, which turns the steering wheel. Not a very delicate handling of the evidence. Just to show that to the extent any of that, the condition of it would have to be altered. It's already been altered significantly. What did Brad Haywood telling presiding judge? He's telling him that the evidence has been altered by the police department. What is he talking about? This is Mustafa's vehicle after the accident. This is Mustafa's vehicle after the accident at the scene. Let that sink in. This is Mustafa's vehicle after the accident at the scene before they took it to the police department. And if you look at that vehicle, Mustafa and his family have already been extracted out of the vehicle. Explain to me how the vehicle today looks like this. This is Mustafa's vehicle. Where's the roof? What happened to the vehicle? Why did they crush it? This is a crushed and staged vehicle. First, they told you because we're extracting Mustafa and his family as part of the saving effort. And one thing that I'm reading through Mustafa's discovery, and I'm finding that the fire department in their report say that they rolled the vehicle and removed the roof and rolled the vehicle at the scene. Wait a minute. I have body cams that they cut the vehicle and crushed the vehicle, cut the roof, cut the vehicle inside the police department. So you're talking about a problem here. The fire department reports are telling you that we did this at the scene. When body cams show, no, you crushed Mustafa's vehicle inside the police department. That's a huge problem for the county. The vehicle went from this. First, they told you we're extracting Mustafa and his family. Well, here, when you look at the vehicle at the scene after the accident, everybody's already out of the vehicle. So, obviously, when you chopped up the vehicle, you can't tell me it's part of the rescue effort. So what did the county say after the file has been leaked? When pictures have been leaked, not the whole file, not the body cams, the pictures. They tell you, oh, we were extracting the computer inside the vehicle. Wait a minute. The problem here with what they're saying, with what they're telling us, is the vehicle is not caved in. I mean, take a hard look at this vehicle. The vehicle is not caved in. And the computer sits right there. So you clearly had access to the ACM inside the vehicle. Why did you crush Mustafa's vehicle? You crushed it and staged it. You're crushing and staging Mustafa's vehicle. That's why you crushed Mustafa's vehicle. And now you're terrified that the independent expert is going to go in and inspect Mustafa's vehicle Where is the original Pharaoh scan from the vehicle before the police department crushed and staged this vehicle? Is Mustafa's defense attorney going to go to Mustafa? Is Mustafa's defense attorney going to file a motion and demand that the Pharaoh scan be supplied to the defense? Is that not exculpatory evidence? Oh, they want to scan the vehicle after they crushed and staged it. A Pharaoh scan, if you don't know what a Pharaoh scan is an equipment that's given to the county, specifically the crash unit with the police department. It's almost $500,000 equipment. When an accident happened, they have an equipment that scans the vehicle, scans the other vehicle involved, and is able to tell you how the accident happened. That has been removed from Mustafa's file. They crushed and staged the vehicle, and they want to have a new scan of a vehicle, of the crushed and staged vehicle. Where's the original scan? So when you find out that the prosecutor is blocking the independent expert from inspecting the vehicle, it's because the independent expert is going to have to write a report and is going to have to tell you, include the original scan that has to be in there. It's going to tell you that the vehicle has been crushed and staged by the county. Oh, there is brake failure. The county found brake failure. So Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. And the county, when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle, there is brake failure. The brake did not work. So what did they do? What did the county do? What did the prosecutor do? They blocked the inspection. And 4 years today, we're looking at a second judge order, and the second judge order hasn't even been done yet. So, going back into the transcript. All right, so the defense submitted a bunch of body cam that show prosecutor Sarah Sammy blocking the independent expert from inspecting the vehicle. And we're going to go over those body cams. Your Honor, the court understands the facts. So, okay, so let's go back into... All right, so Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge. So those videos just basically show the police department. First of all, it shows Mr. Keene, the independent expert for the defense, not being allowed to touch anything. He had actual comments that he's not allowed to touch anything. And it also shows the Commonwealth or the police really manhandling all of the evidence. They're just picking it up, putting it down, throwing this way and that way. And there are 2 videos of them actually turning a wheel, which turns the steering wheel, not a very delicate handling of the evidence, just to show that to the extent of any of that, the condition of it would have been altered. It's already been altered significantly. So Brad Hay was telling him that the police department altered the vehicle. But Your Honor, the court understands the facts. The court understands the evidence that we're looking for access to, highlighting the Virginia law in this. There is 2 statutory provisions that I didn't mention, which are relevant, I think, for the court consideration. And those are in the Department of Forensic Science chapter of Title 19.1, 9.1, 9.1-1104 and 1105. The court may be familiar with these. 1104 allows for defense counsel to request testing of evidence in the Commonwealth possession that is, quote, unique, related in any way to the crime if the attorney certifies in good faith that he believes scientific investigation may be relevant to the charge, that any item, any type of testing for which DFS has the methodology. And then 9.1-1105 discuss independent examination of evidence. So examination of evidence by independent expert in a criminal case. So this is something clearly contemplated not within the precedent, but with the Virginia Code. So he's basically telling the judge that we're entitled, according to the law, we're entitled to inspect the evidence. Based on the law, I'm the defense attorney. I'm allowed to hire an independent expert and inspect Mustafa's vehicle and inspect the dash camera. The standards of materiality are low in this context. And quite frankly, I read the Commonwealth's response and their objection to this, but I don't see where the factual basis is that supports these concerns. And one, I already mentioned the vehicle and the condition of the vehicle. But they argue that another extraction from these digital evidence, digital devices, will somehow compromise the integrity of the evidence. They do that without anything to establish that that's the case. It's not the case. This happens all the time. He's telling the presiding judge that the prosecutor is arguing that she doesn't want an independent expert to go in and inspect the vehicle because she's wants to protect the integrity of the evidence. One, protect the chain of custody and protect the integrity of the evidence. Brad Haywood is telling the judge, Your Honor, look at the vehicle. He's telling him the vehicle went from this to, look at what they've done to the car. The police department crushed this vehicle. Look at what they've done to the vehicle. The prosecutor is going to argue that, Your Honor, we want to protect the integrity of the vehicle, protect the integrity of the chain of custody, protect the integrity of the evidence. Look at what they've done to the evidence. You have a dash camera where the investigator is admitting, Chad Mason is admitting to breaking the chain of custody on the dash camera. Imagine, he takes the possession of the dash camera, and then he tells you, I've had the file, I downloaded the file for 2 days before I got a warrant for this dash. That's breaking the chain of custody. So when the prosecutor argued that we want to protect the integrity of, we want to make sure that the chain of custody is not broken, your officer already broke the chain of custody. And he admitted to it in the motion to dismiss. Your officers crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle. So what are you protecting in this case? And that's what Mustafa's defense attorney is telling Judge Weimer. All right. I already mentioned the vehicle and the condition of the vehicle, but they argue that another extraction from these digital devices will somehow compromise the integrity of the evidence that they crushed, the evidence that the chain of custody that they broke. All right, so we're on page 11, and I think what we should do, we should reserve page 11 to page 22 on another podcast, because in these pages, what we're going to go into, what the defense and the prosecutor and the judge are going to go into, is the stipulation when the independent expert is allowed to go in and inspect Mustafa's dash camera and the vehicle. The defense independent expert. There are stipulations that they agree on, because the defense is arguing, Brad Haywood, the whole reason of this whole entire motion is that there is evidence that show that the police department cut and muted the dash camera. So we're hiring an independent expert to go in and download the original file. That the vehicle was blocked from being inspected. So we're hiring another independent expert to go in and inspect this vehicle that the police department crushed and staged. And we want to know what they've done. Why is the vehicle in the condition that it's at? So there is already a breakdown in trust between Mustafa's lawyer and the prosecutor, between Mustafa's lawyer and the police department. Now he's no longer relying on the police department to inspect the evidence. No, he wants to hire his own independent expert. And because of that, what they're all agreeing is stipulation. And that's what you're going to find between page 11 and page 22 on the transcript of September 16, 2025. And that stipulation are that all parties have to be present, because they don't trust each other anymore. They all have to be there. The defense attorney, the prosecutor, and the police department. and the body cams are rolling. When this happens, when the independent expert go in and inspect the vehicle, there's going to be body cams. When the independent expert go in and extract the SD card, the metadata, and the files off the SD card in that dash camera, there's going to be body cams that Mustafa is entitled to going over. That's by law, Mustafa is entitled to review his evidence, the body cams. So that stipulation are all parties have to be there. So when Mustafa's defense attorney tell him, Mustafa, the independent expert went in, how do you know for sure that that went in? Could the lawyer have been compromised and is lying to Mustafa? Well, we're at a stage that we have to question the defense attorneys. Look at what has been done so far. Defense attorney that come into Mustafa's case, we have evidence they have been threatened. We have evidence that defense attorneys are working for the county to protect and cover up this falsified case for the county. So Mustafa is entitled to ask his defense attorney to build trust. Where are the body cams? When they went in and inspected my vehicle? Where are the body cams when they went in and inspected my dash camera? Where is the report from inspecting the metadata? Where is the report when they downloaded the metadata off the dash camera, the files from the dash camera? What does the report say? Did you compare it with the original files from the county? Did they alter these files? It's going to show. The report is going to show it. Mustafa is entitled to go over the report from Steven Investa, because they're telling Mustafa that Investa already went in. They're telling Mustafa that another independent expert, the prosecutor independent expert, went in. Doug Lacey. Where are those sets of body cams? Where are that report? And where is the financial report from that? So that's what we're going to review. We're going to reserve for the next upcoming podcast is from page 11 to 22. What I want to do, I want to go over the set of body cams before we end this podcast. There's body cams that show the prosecutor blocked the independent expert from inspecting Mustafa's vehicle. The question here is, when people ask why Mustafa was scheduled for trial in March, Mustafa's trial is supposed to be coming up. Why isn't Mustafa going to trial? You're telling me that it's in December? It got pushed until December? Well, let's watch what they're doing in Mustafa's case. The prosecutor wants to tell you it's Mustafa's fault. Mustafa, the guy that's sitting in solitary, it's his fault that his case is not moving forward. Well, Mustafa, on the record, he tells the presiding judge, Your Honor, where is my independent expert that were supposed to be inspecting the vehicle? 3 years ago, they were supposed to inspect my vehicle. That didn't happen. You put out an order this past September. Where's my independent expert? I'm supposed to be going to trial, Your Honor. I want to go to trial. Where is the independent expert inspecting my vehicle? Where's the independent expert from inspecting my dash camera? Why have my defense attorney not sat down with me and gone over my cell phone dumps? There's 1 terabyte of cell phone dump of his cell phone and his girlfriend's cell phones. We're going on 4 years. And they're not letting Mustafa go over the cell phone dump. Material in his case. By law, he's supposed to be able to go over the material. They're hiding it from Mustafa. They're hiding it from this case. They don't want to put it on this case because the minute you put the evidence, it's going to show that they're lying. The question is, why is Mustafa trial pushed until December? We're going on 4 years where Mustafa has not had trial yet. He sits in solitary confinement in a county jail without a trial. Who is blocking Mustafa's case from moving forward? Is it Mustafa or is it the prosecutor that's blocking and breaking the judge order? Let's look at the body cam and see what is this prosecutor doing. What is defense attorney Brad Haywood telling the judge? That the prosecutor is blocking the independent expert from inspecting Mustafa's vehicle. And why is the prosecutor blocking an independent expert? Why is she terrified that this vehicle is going to be looked at? She's terrified. The prosecutor is terrified because her police officer staged and crushed the vehicle. That once you inspect the vehicle, you're going to find that this is a car accident. And Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. So what did she do? She blocked the independent expert from inspecting this vehicle. Let's watch the body cam where the independent expert 3 years ago goes in and he's attempting to inspect the vehicle. He shows up on site at where the vehicle is and is told by the investigator, the same investigator that falsified Mustafa's statement, the same investigator, Robert Drum, that falsified the warrant. He tells the independent expert, prosecutor Sarah Sammy says, you cannot inspect the vehicle. Let's watch the body cam.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one is it?
It's in the box.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one is
It's
it?
in the box.
This is
per my conversation with Sarah. So this is the first time I've ever done this.
This is the independent expert. This is Mr. Keene, Stephen Keene. We paid him $5,000 at the time to go in. There's a judge order to inspect Mustafa's vehicle. This is Mustafa's defense attorney at the time, Casey Stevens. And you're going to see that Stephen Keene is being told, you can't touch the vehicle. And then throughout the body cam, we'll play those body cams. He's told, you can't touch the other vehicle, the SUV involved in this accident. Completely blocking the independent expert. And then the investigator, Robert Drum, what does he tell? What does he tell this independent expert? He says, prosecutor Sarah Sammy says that you can't touch the vehicle. That's breaking and blocking the judge order. So when you say, why is Mustafa not going to trial? Well, let's look at the body cam.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one is
It's in the box. Per my conversation with Sarah. So this is
Per my conversation with Sarah Sammy, the prosecutor on this case, that's telling the judge today, no, Your Honor, we allowed him to inspect the vehicle. Flat out lying to the judge.
What's that?
Which one is
It's in the box. Per my conversation with Sarah. So this is the first time I've ever done this in 18 years. She said we can pull it out for you.
Yeah.
You can look at it. She doesn't want anybody touching it. Okay.
Like touching it, I mean, can I?
Like if you want to take pictures and all that, but if anything needs to be manipulated, we'll do it for you for chain of custody issues.
Perfect. Sure. Okay.
If you want to take pictures of it, we'll let you take pictures. You can bring in your Faro scan and scan the vehicle and take pictures of it. Which vehicle? The vehicle that they crushed and staged. This vehicle that they crushed and staged. That vehicle. So he can take pictures of this vehicle. But he can't touch it. Also, you're telling me that you crushed the vehicle. The vehicle goes from this. There's an original scan with the Faro scan that you scan the vehicle, you scan the other vehicle, but then you crush it. You crush that vehicle. And now you want the independent expert to scan it. The vehicle goes from this to this. And now you want him to scan the vehicle. Now it's okay to scan the vehicle. Now it's okay to take pictures of it. But you can't touch it. Because if you touch it, you're going to have to write a report and you're going to find out what happened in this vehicle. And what did he tell the independent expert? Prosecutor Sarah Sammy said, you can't touch it. Blocking the independent expert, breaking the judge order. Because if this independent expert is allowed to touch the vehicle, he's going to write a report and he's going to demand, he's going to tell you this vehicle looked like this. Now it looks like this. They crushed it. The police department crushed it. Where is the original? This is my scan right now, but I need the original scan. He's going to scan the vehicle. He's going to inspect the vehicle. He's going to find out that your police department found brake failure. Oh, that's right. Well, Mustafa's foot, the computer inside his vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. Your police department found brake failure. So the vehicle would not stop. This is the data, the EDR data from Mustafa's vehicle. This is the EDR data from Mustafa's vehicle, where the police department pulled the EDR and Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. This is Mustafa's foot. Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The police department inspect Mustafa's vehicle and they find
right rear tire brake didn't engage.
This body cam, the complete body cam, you can find it on YouTube under Not Another Boron Podcast. They inspect Mustafa's vehicle. It's about over an hour long body cam where they inspect Mustafa's vehicle and they find that the front passenger caliper brake did not work and the back caliper brake passenger did not work. So Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The police department find brake failure. And what did they do to block this from, by the way, this is nowhere on the reports. This is a sealed body cam that has now been leaked where it showed that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident and they found brake failure. So what did they do? They blocked the independent expert because once the independent expert goes in and inspect the vehicle, one, he's going to find out that the police department crushed and staged his vehicle. Two, the independent expert is going to find out that there's brake failure, that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. He's going to write a full report. He's going to ask, where's the original scan before you crushed this vehicle? So what did they do? They block him. And in court, the prosecutor till today, she tells the judge, Your Honor, we let him go in and inspect the vehicle. Then why is the judge issuing another judge order and we have another independent expert going in? Why are we doing this again 4 years later? Oh, because you're flat out lying to the judge. And the judge, Judge Carol Weimer, is allowing you to do it. He's entertaining the BS that's coming out of this case. He's entertaining that a prosecutor lie, falsify, and flat out lie to him. He's allowing her to lie to him. I mean, the defense submitted this body cam that you and I watched. Why is the judge not holding this prosecutor accountable? Let's continue watching the body cams. So that's the first body cam. This is another body cam where let's see. All right, this is another body cam where he tells the independent expert that prosecutor Sarah Sammy says you can't touch the vehicle.
Am I allowed to pull wheels off?
That's your call.
He says, am I allowed to pull the wheels off? He's going to tell him, prosecutor Sarah Sammy said you can't touch the vehicle at all.
Are you allowed to pull wheels off?
That's your call.
Just photos.
By the way, this is another prosecutor on the case. They have 3 prosecutors. This is another prosecutor on the case standing there. And he's going to tell him, no, you can't touch the vehicle. And then this prosecutor is hesitant to flat out say it. So the investigator, the same investigator, Robert Drum, tells the independent expert, prosecutor Sarah Sammy says, you cannot touch the vehicle.
Are you allowed to pull wheels off?
That's your call.
Just photos. Or just one or the other, if I can. If I may ask what you're looking at. I'm just looking at the brakes. Okay. That's what I want to look at. Can we pick it up? Can we pick it up with
the tow bed?
With the tow bed?
I'm sure we've got a jack. Huh?
I mean, look how concerned they are. They're like, we can lift it up. We can let it down. We can bring a jack to make sure to protect. Look at what they've done to the fucking car. I mean, you're talking about a car that they crushed completely. Where's the roof? Where's the car? They crushed the vehicle, and they're so concerned about the integrity of the vehicle. We can bring it up. We can bring it down. Maybe we should put a jack underneath it to make sure the vehicle is protected. Oh, can he touch the vehicle? No. Don't let him touch the vehicle because we want to protect this piece of evidence that we fucking crushed and staged. I mean, if it wasn't on body cam, now I remind everybody that's watching this is a sealed body cam. Why do you think Mustafa's case is sealed? It's sealed because the minute you watch this, you're going to ask, what the fuck happened to Mustafa's car? Why is Mustafa's car crushed? Why are they blocking the independent expert from inspecting the car?
If I may ask what you're looking at. I'm just looking at the brakes. Okay. That's what I want to look at. Can we pick it up? Can we pick it up with
the tow bed?
With the tow bed?
I'm sure we've got a jack. Huh?
It's not a...
Oh, grab it. The tow bed?
With the tow bed?
I'm sure we've got a jack. Huh?
It's not a...
Oh, grab it.
Get it.
I would say leave the wheel on. Sarah said she doesn't want anything manipulated. I don't mind a cap coming off to looking at something, but taking a wheel off.
I need to get on.
I gotta listen to that one more time. Sarah says, make sure you don't touch anything because she doesn't want the vehicle manipulated. We're looking at a vehicle that went from being intact at the scene to where a vehicle that has no roof and is completely crushed inside the police department. And he's talking about, the prosecutor says, I don't want you to touch anything because because the prosecutor she said, don't touch anything because she doesn't want anything manipulated. I'll say she doesn't want you to touch anything because she doesn't want you to write a report. She wants to block you from inspecting the vehicle. I mean, 4 years later, we don't have his report. And he's telling you they blocked me from inspecting the vehicle. That's what Brad Hayward is telling the judge. It's on the record. That's not me saying it. That's the defense attorney on the record telling the judge that a prosecutor blocked my independent expert, and the judge issues another independent expert to go out 3 years later.
Under and look inside, drunk.
Yeah. I would say leave the wheel on. Sarah said she doesn't want anything manipulated. I don't mind a cap coming off to looking at something, but taking a wheel off.
You need to get under and look inside, drunk.
Yeah.
Use that just to lift it up. And chalk it.
He's comfortable with it.
We're not manipulating.
I don't
this
think
is all just structural frame, and there's no manipulation.
He's okay with it.
Yeah.
So we can probably pick the back up. You good with that? I wouldn't take a wheel off. What's that? You want to crawl?
I'll crawl up on you.
Okay.
If that's okay.
No, that's fine.
This is another this is another body cam where he tells him you can't even look at the other vehicle involved. So he can't look at Mustafa's vehicle, and now he can't look at the other vehicle that's involved in this case. Well, let's watch this body cam. He says the independent expert is so terrified. He tells him, like he said, I'm not going to touch anything. You said don't touch anything. I'm not going to touch anything. Let's look at this body cam.
So this one.
Should be center tunnel.
Yeah. So I can get good photos in there. So this. No, I don't want to touch, man.
No.
This. You'll have to come out so I can get pictures.
Okay.
Center tunnel, and we're gonna need to get photos of the pedals, and I'm gonna have y'all.
Okay, we'll take the doors out.
I'm just trying to play by the rules, man.
No, I hear you.
We moving the doors?
Yep. Doors come out.
I'm just trying to play by the rules. What rules? The rules that you, the independent experts, 3 years ago, didn't say anything because it's going to expose what this county is doing. I mean, as an independent expert, Stephen Keene used to be a Virginia State police officer, right? And now you have your own company. And you're contracted by Mustafa's lawyer, Casey Stevens, at the time. And we paid $5,000 for you to go in and inspect Mustafa's vehicle. There's a judge order. And a police department block you from inspecting the vehicle. 3 years later, it's coming out in the report on the transcript that we read by Brad Hayward, where Brad Hayward says you were not allowed to inspect the vehicle. You were blocked from inspecting the vehicle. And according to you, you've never seen anything like this. Why didn't you say that at the time? Why didn't you say anything at the time? Were you protecting the police department then? Now there's a leaked file. It compromises your company. Where is the report from your finding when you went in? So what did I pay $5,000 for? A better question is that normal operating procedure for you when you run into a case that's falsified by the county? Forget Mustafa. Are you telling me, Stephen Keene, that if someone in the county retains your company and hires you as an independent expert, and if you go in and you find a case that is falsified, are you going to do the same thing that you've done in Mustafa's case? where you protect that police department that falsified the case. I mean, that's really terrifying for the county. We have a company in our county that's operating under that they're independent expert, but what they do is they go in and protect the county and the police department in a case where a county falsified the case. You know how terrifying that is for this county to wake up into that reality? And if I'm saying anything that is not factual, Stephen King can sue me for a defamation lawsuit. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm making giant claims about a company within our county. And I don't think I would be making them if I didn't have the evidence. I mean, we're looking at the evidence together. We're looking at that body cam. We're looking at what Stephen King is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Why do you think I'm not getting sued with a defamation lawsuit? He can, but he knows that I'm going to be entitled, because discovery does go both ways. I'm going to be entitled to his communication, his cell phones, and he doesn't want to take it to court because he knows that the evidence is on my side, that he protected the police department. That's terrifying for the county. So if you're in Prince William County and you need yourself an independent expert, be careful from hiring Stephen King, because Stephen King will come and he's going to pose as an independent expert, but he's not there to do an independent analysis. He's not there to do an independent inspection. No, his job is to protect a police officer that falsified a case. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he goes in and Robert Drum, the main investigator, he used to be a Virginia State police officer. Robert Drum is an officer that's been there for 18 years. And what we're watching on body cam is that he protected the officer. And instead of holding him accountable and doing his job and doing independent inspection, no, instead, he protected that officer, that county, that crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle. That should be terrifying for anybody that's hiring that company out of Prince William County. It should be terrifying for anybody that's going to hire Stephen King as an independent analysis. Let's watch another body cam where he flat out. It's another body cam where he says, "Don't touch, I'll grab it for you."
So I'm fine with that. It's a camera.
Pictures of all the seat belts and all. Can I grab them, or I got gloves if you want?
Just watch, or
You can grab.
you good with that?
Can I grab seat belts? Just take photos of them since I got gloves on. Because he doesn't look at them. Okay. Yeah. Just want to get.
Oh, you want the burn and the cut?
Yeah, perfect. All right.
It was rear right and then front right.
Well, I want to get.
You want to get the back one anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. How's the violence stream?
Huh?
That was tight.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay. Yeah. This one. Oh,
sorry.
No worries. Can I get where she's connected?
Yep. Right here.
Yep.
She wasn't wearing it, so I don't. Probably still with the pillar.
Yeah. Bet she's on the floor.
Yeah, it's still in the pillar. It's gotta be in the pillar. She wasn't wearing it. It's right there. Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
Don't touch, I'll grab it for you. So Robert Drum, the main investigator, tells the independent expert, you can't touch the vehicle, I'll grab it for you. And he's only allowed to take pictures of a vehicle that they crushed and staged. I mean, look at the vehicle. The vehicle went from this to that. You can only take pictures of it, but you can't touch it. I think there's one more body cam that we're going to go over where he flat out tells him, you can't even touch the other vehicle involved in the accidents. There we go.
Am I allowed to take pictures of the other vehicle?
No.
Okay.
Am I allowed to touch the other vehicle? No. The investigator tells him a flat out no. The independent expert says, am I allowed to touch the other vehicle that's involved in this accident? The investigator tells him no. Why are you blocking the vehicle inspections? Let's watch that one more time.
Am I allowed to take pictures of the other vehicle?
No.
Okay.
Unless court order.
It just says the vehicle.
The vehicle?
Vehicle.
Oh, vehicle.
Okay. Good enough. Just thought I'd ask. I'm good.
You all done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just gotta write down the plate number. I think.
He's all done. What did you do? I mean, if you're not allowed to touch the vehicle, what did you do? Oh, you're there. They brought you in just to do what exactly? Protect the police department? Oh, the defense attorney at the time, Casey Stevens, allowed you to do it? Oh, this was... They agreed that they were going to bring you in only for you to scan the vehicle? That the original Pharaoh scan was removed from Mustafa's case? And now you come in and you scan a vehicle that's been crushed and staged by the police department? Oh, that's your job. Oh, there's a leaked file today that you have to come out and say, oh, I was blocked. Where were you 3 years ago? We paid you $5,000. You're independent expert for the defense. You're telling me 3 years ago they blocked you from inspecting the vehicle and you didn't say anything? Only now there is a leaked file where I have access into the body cams that you're saying they blocked you? Today we're looking at a case where Judge Weimer is watching the same body cams that me and you are watching. It's no longer sealed. They tried to seal this case. The county tried. The prosecutor and the police department tried. But since then, there's a leak that we get to watch these body cams. On the record, these body cams are on the record. Because of it, on September 16 of last year, 2025, September 16, 2025, the judge ordered another independent expert to go out. There's no consequences for this prosecutor who, because of what she's done in this case, I mean, this body cam, the date goes back to, let's see, the date on this is July 18, 2023. Only today that we get to sit here and find out why Mustafa sits in solitary confinement. He sits in solitary confinement without a trial, and his trial is being delayed all the way into December. That's 4 years into this case. It's because a leaked body cam can tell us what is going on. A leaked body cam show us that the prosecutor is blocking this case from moving forward by blocking the evidence and the inspection of the vehicle. Judge Weimer has that body cam that we just watched. On the record, we read the transcript where the defense entered it on the record. The question that we ask, why is there no consequences? Why is this judge not holding this prosecutor who's flat out lying to him at this point? Why is there no consequences for this prosecutor? Is Judge Carol Weimer still impartial on the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case when he allows a prosecutor, one, to lie to him, and two, to block the evidence, and the consequences are that Mustafa sits in solitary and his trial is being delayed 4 years, going on 4 years. They're terrified. They're terrified because this case, the file has been leaked. Body cams, that going forward, anything that you tell Mustafa is going to be able to tell you, the county, if you're bullshitting him. Anything that's coming out of this case, we're going to be able to tell this county if they're bullshitting us. There's so much that's been leaked out of the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case that when tomorrow they come out and say, well, our independent expert, Mustafa, went in and didn't find audio. Mustafa's going to tell you, well, where are the body cams? When you went and inspected the dash camera. When my independent experts went in and inspected the dash camera, where is the body cam? Because there are stipulations. The same way we're watching these body cams, there's going to be another set of body cams when they went in and downloaded and inspected Mustafa's dash camera. Mustafa is going to tell you, I'm entitled to the body cam. He's going to tell his defense. Where is my body cam? When you tell me there is no audio, there are stipulations. And if you remember, the stipulations are that all parties have to be present because no one trusts each other anymore. Now that we're finding out that the case is falsified, that the police department crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle, that the police department cut and muted the audio of Mustafa's dash camera, now that we're finding it does have audio, now we're finding out that body cam showed that they weaponized a 9, a 10, a 14. Obviously, there is no longer trust between the defense and the county, the police department and the prosecutor. So the stipulation are that when the independent expert go in, all parties have to be there. Question here is, where are the body cams? When you want to tell Mustafa there's no audio, Mustafa's going to tell you, and he's going to find out that whether you're bullshitting him or not when he sees the body cams. There is a set of body cams that Mustafa has to go over, and by law, they have to show Mustafa the set of body cam from Investa, the independent expert that went in, that Brad Haywood says went in and inspected the dash camera. The report that has to come out of that inspection. The financial report that you paid for an independent expert going in. Because we don't want a situation where the same thing that's happening here happens today. That an independent expert go in and covers up for the county. Today, we actually can find out if they're covering up for the county or they're being honest with Mustafa. You tell me what you're doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, and I'm going to tell you whether you're lying to us or not. There's too much that's been leaked out of this case that we can tell if you're lying to us or not. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Casey for being here, and I rely on Casey a lot. Thank you for, Casey, I really appreciate you putting the body cams in the center box. We're on TikTok. Everybody that's joining us on TikTok, thank you for doing everything that you do. I don't thank you enough. I want to thank everybody else that's been with us since the beginning. I want to thank the mother of Mustafa Al-Jazairi. She's here and watching what's coming out of Mustafa's case and what they're doing to her son. I want to thank everybody. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share this podcast on your Facebook. Don't forget to support. You can support us directly on YouTube. We are monetized, so you can directly support us on and through our platform, YouTube, Not Another Boring Podcast. Or you can support us directly through Cash App. Our Cash App is Boring Podcast. So we can continue doing what we're doing. This is Not Another Boring Podcast. When we come back, we're going to go over the transcript of September 16 from today we cover page 1 through 11. On the next podcast, we're going to cover page 11 to 22. And the focus is the stipulation that's been put in place when the independent expert go in. That's the focus, and that's what you're going to get out of these transcripts. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is Not Another Boring Podcast. Mustafa Through the Police Body Cams, Judge Carol Weimer, Defense Attorney Brad Haywood. You are under the microscope.
If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay. If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it, is what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay.